This time on the show, cracking WPA keys with a little WPS brute forcing action. Darren Interviews Craig Heffner, author of Reaver, plus DLL injection and other mischief in Microsoft's PowerShell with Power Syringe. And finally, a big red button of doom that'll turn a working hard drive into forensically sound toast in seconds. All that and more from this Hak5 Special from Shmoocon 2012. This segment of Hak5 is brought to you by Domain.com.
Hello, welcome to Hak5. My name is Darren Kitchen.
I'm Shannon Morse.
It's your weekly dose of Technolist.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Yay, we're going to end season 10 here.
I know, I can't believe we've done 10 seasons. That's insane.
Which
on
also
11?
Which means
you've
11.
done 10 seasons.
Huh?
That's what I should say.
Well, all but 2 episodes, but
True, yeah.
But season 11 means 1111. Oh,
Yay!
yeah.
That's cool.
That's 15 in binary.
You know, backwards it spells 1111.
That's a palindrome.
Ha-ha!
Uh-huh.
So we got a gift
Uh-oh.
from a fan while we were gone at Shmoocon.
It's a gift from a fan.
Dun,
Or something,
dun,
I don't know.
Okay. I just
Still
cut
not-
it
I'm
open.
still not checking these too, and I
but
really should be.
You go ahead and look at your present.
Present.
Dear Darren and Shannon, I was cleaning out my... This is from Rick, by the way.
Thank you, Rick.
I was cleaning out my computer
5
room to
1/4.
remodel, found the following items I thought you might like to add to your collection. The Icon controller was an alternative for a mouse. There's cassette tapes. There were a HeatKit HA computer and H9 terminal he purchased in '77. There's the HA
got
keyboard to
assembler
play
on it.
ASCII Hangman. No storage on the H8, so when you shut the computer off, you had to reprogram your games or programs again. Wow, that's crazy. Can you believe you had to do that back in the day? Reprogram everything every time you wanted to do it? You're like, I did that when I was a kid. Where were you?
Well, no.
I
I was lucky. I had a hard drive. It was awesome. It was 20 megs. It sounded like a tank.
He has also included a box of new 2.5-inch floppy disks, a Windows 95 OEM disk, and the floppy disk for his first Panasonic laptop. And he says, I still remember drilling holes in the 2.5-inch 2DD floppies to make them 2HD to double the storage. Watch your show every week along with the hack tips when they come out. Keep up the good work. Yeah. I think that's the...
It's just so happy.
Oh my god.
It's like, like I want to play Asteroids now. Like, woo!
Oh, that's a great idea.
This is fantastic.
This is actually pretty cool.
The ultimate cursor controller.
Suncom.
Yeah, this
Wow.
would be way cooler than a mouse.
Oh my god.
I think it might catch on, actually. What do you think, Paul? No. All
No,
right.
it's like a joystick for video games.
They make mice that you hold like this. It's crazy. Yeah.
I want to do that. No, I like my little mouse, so I can be like. So hey, how was Shmoocon? Did you have a good time?
I'm still on a Shmoocon hangover.
Oh, still? Really?
Yeah.
Is it like CES, that hangover? Because that one was tough.
Actually, Paul and I stayed an extra day for the Nova Hackers Shmoocon epilogue,
right.
which was an awesome 13 hours of back-to-back, just in a room, in an auditorium at the Nova Hackers place
Sounds kind
in
of
Northern
like a
Virginia.
classroom.
Just kind of, well, it was great though because it was just talk after talk after. It wasn't like Shmoocon, like all those cons, they can seem a little overwhelming, and this was just awesome because I was just
Actually,
like chilling
you know
in
what
the back,
that sounds like to me?
doing code.
It sounds like that day that I went to Comic-Con and I stayed in Hall H for 10 hours just to see True Blood at the very end of the
Priorities.
day. Priorities, yeah. I had cheesy puffs and chocolate to eat during the day. That's about it. This is a long, long day, but very overwhelmingly awesome.
Thanks, Rick, for the nostalgia, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
I
That was very cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So what are we getting into today?
We are getting to some really good fun. A lot of people have been emailing us since this came out. A lot of awesome developments in some Wi-Fi cracking. Not a whole lot has happened really since Rainbow Tables and Cow Patty and things like that. So this is a nice little thing because we're going in the back door and cracking WPS.
Ooh,
Yay.
Really? You can crack that now?
Well, you can brute force it. Anyway, you're going to find out all about it because
Cool.
We're going to be talking to Craig Heffner, the author of Reaver, and also coming up after that, we've got Power Syringe and a little something from Skunkworks.
Nice.
Hard drive, yeah, you'll see. It's good stuff. It's terror.
That sounds
Hard drive
awesome. I
terror.
can't wait to see that. I was at the table all weekend, selling our hack shop goodies. So I can't wait to see the interviews of the talks that I didn't get to see.
I can't wait to go to, you know what the thing I love about Shmoocon is and a lot of the cons, like we'll post their videos, like, well, it usually takes like a few months or whatever, but eventually you can go and see like all the talks, and Shmoocon streams live all the talks.
So excited to see
So
those.
like CES, the viewers at home probably saw more than we did, and the same thing with Shmoocon.
You're probably right, yeah.
I really think like going to a con is about the people and the experience and the stuff more than like, because there's
like
3 tracks at a time.
Talking and meeting and greeting, and then actually watching it on the computer is when you really get to see what's there.
Yeah, the only problem then is you don't get to like have the discussions with the people there
That's true.
So it's just like we just need to clone ourselves so we can go to every single talk.
Yeah.
Anyway, with all that said, we're going to throw it over now to our interview with Craig Heffner, and stay tuned for the rest of the good stuff after the fact. Back to the aft. The facts are in the aft, which is the back, not the bow. This is the bow. That's the aft. This is port. You're on port. I'm on stern.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Just when you thought your wireless access point was safe, Craig Heffner is here to disrupt Wi-Fi again. Dude, not a whole lot has happened in WPA cracking in the last few years. It seems like really the last interesting thing I saw was like cow patty. A lot of people are probably familiar with like rainbow tables, kind of offline brute force dictionary attacks on like basically if your password is in a dictionary and your SSID is one of the known ones that there are tables for. Easy peasy to crack if you have the 4-way handshake, but now you've come up with something that's able to crack something even if it has a 63-character WPA key. Yep. How are you doing this?
So it's not attacking WPA directly, it's actually going after Wi-Fi protected setup.
Now, Wi-Fi protected setup, for somebody that isn't familiar with it, how does that work?
So it's basically a key management system to make it easier for end users to distribute long, complex WPA keys to all the clients they want to connect to their network. So you've got a button on the access point and a button on the client. It may be a physical button or a virtual button in like some software.
Like on Android, there's a WPS button.
Exactly. So you push a button on the access point, you push a button on the client, and they sync up and they securely exchange information. And so now the client has the WPA key that it needs to connect to your access point.
And I can imagine this is great for anybody with like a Nintendo Wii or something, where rather than trying to use their stupid interface to type in 63 characters with a Wiimote, and it's very similar to actually how like a Wii and a Wiimote interface, in that you're like holding down the buttons and it does the key exchange, and now they're paired and happy, right?
Yep.
You know, it's funny because it sounds like a lot. You know, everybody I talk to is like, oh yeah, WPS. I don't use that because we just use like hackers. We're just like, I'm using like Mary Had a Little Lamb. Like that's pretty damn long.
Right.
Easy to remember, and it's not easily cracked, and I don't need to use WPS, that stupid button, right?
Right, well, it doesn't really matter if you use it. What really matters is if it's on, and it's on by default in every access point or router you're going to buy today.
Now, how did WPS come around? Is this part of the Wi-Fi Protected Alliance, or Wi-Fi Alliance?
Yeah, it's a protocol put out by the Wi-Fi Alliance, and they control the specification for the protocol and everything. They actually did a really good job implementing it. There's a lot of protections against a lot of different attacks that you could do against this protocol.
This is something where you can like WPA cracking, where you just steal the 4-way handshake, you do an offline brute force attack?
No, it's actually an active attack against the access point itself.
So they've actually protected for that?
Well, kind of. So we've talked about like attaching a client to an access point. There's actually a third entity involved that a lot of people is kind of hidden from them, and that's called the registrar. So the registrar is actually the entity that does this exchange between with the client. It handles all the WPS stuff. The access point is really just kind of a go-between.
Okay.
And on most access points, they have a registrar in them. So the access point and the registrar are really one and the same. But the protocol mandates that any access point that implements WPS has to support external registrars.
Why would you have an external registrar? You only want your Wi-Fi gear to be protecting your Wi-Fi gear, right?
Well, one of the really kind of cool things that's been built into Windows 7 is it can be a registrar. So when you plug your Windows 7 PC into your access point, if it's not configured, your Windows 7 PC can configure it automatically. It can become a registrar and configure it automatically with a nice long passphrase that most people wouldn't pick.
How convenient.
Yes.
Now, explain to me, what's the actual process when I press that button and this button and they start doing the mojo and I have the key? What's involved in that?
Well, so obviously they don't want to just like start sending keys in plain text over the wire, right?
What's your password?
Yeah, that's bad. So the first thing they do is they set up, they exchange Diffie-Hellman keys, so they have good, secure
That's good stuff right there.
encryption, right? And then basically everything from that point on is encrypted.
So what kind of encryption are we talking?
It's Diffie-Hellman.
Okay, cool.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, you're basically, if you can break that, then you could break WPA anyway.
You could be doing talks at every con. Yeah.
Right. So and there's a series of packets they send back and forth for authentication and ensuring that there's like not someone kind of trying to monkey in the middle with them and that kind of thing. And then at the end, the access point just sends off, says, hey, here's all the information you need to connect to me, which includes obviously the WPA key.
Nice. So your tool, tell me real quick, what does that do?
So we kind of talked about this idea of an external registrar. So external registrars can actually become registrars over 802.11, over wireless. So the way they do that is for security, you don't want just anyone over wireless saying, hey, yes, I'm a new registrar.
Yeah, can I be your registrar? Sure.
Right. So the access point actually has a PIN number, and it's an 8-digit PIN. It's actually really only 7 digits because the last digit is a checksum.
Wonderful. 7 digits. Sounds familiar.
Well, it's actually not that bad yet.
Well, considering you turn over most Linksys routers and there it is.
Right. So if you have physical access to it, you can see the PIN and you're done, right? But unlike like the push button thing where you're adding a client, when you add a registrar, there's no user action required. You don't have to push a button or do anything.
Sounds convenient.
It's always on, right? So as long as you know the access point's PIN, you can become a registrar. And once you become a registrar, the access point will say, hey, you're a registrar. You need to know all of my configurations in order to add new clients over WPS. So here's my configurations. And alternatively, the registrar can then come back and say, well, that's nice, but here's your new wireless configurations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you can actually reconfigure. Once you're a registrar, you can reconfigure it. You can say, well, now you're using web.
So
now you're using this new WPA
If I
key.
become your registrar, I can make you drop your security completely?
Yes.
Now, I don't have like the password to your router's admin interface.
Correct.
But I'm still able to F with the wireless management of it.
Correct.
That is sick. Where did you come up with the idea? What language did you write this in? I'm fascinated.
So I actually started looking at the WPS specifications that they publish.
As you do at night when you're trying to go to bed.
Oh, of course, right. For funsies. And there's actually a section where they talk about splitting the PIN in half. So if let's say you've got an 8-digit PIN, last digit is a checksum, you should really have 7 digits. That's 10,000 possibilities because they're only numeric values. And they've put in a lot of protections to protect offline brute forcing.
Yeah.
And you can really only practically do like 1 pin per second if you're going to do an active brute force. So if there's 10 million possibilities, it's going to take you a while.
Yeah.
But if you split the pin in half, you've got a 4-digit pin, which is only 10,000 possibilities. And then the last half includes the checksum. So it's really only 3 digits you have to brute force, which is 1,000.
So it splits it in half. It's almost like, what are we, alphanumeric, make everything uppercase, split the 14 into 7, and it sounds like LAN manager, NTLM.
It's LAN man for Wi-Fi.
Oh my God, this is so sad. Except it's not one of those where you just get the hash and then you send it over to ntlm.cracking.ck.lx, or I just made that up. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
You can't just, throw it into John the Ripper and get yourself a key.
Right, it has to actually be an active attack. So basically what you're doing is if you want to brute force the pin, you say, well, here's the first half of the pin. And the access
you don't have to give it all 8 digits at once?
No, it's done in segments. They split it in half. They do it individually. And you say, here's the first half of the pin. And the access point will either say, okay, that's correct. Let's move on and give me the second half. Or it'll say, no, that's wrong. So at that point, you say, well, it's wrong. Okay, here's the next pin and the next pin until you get it right. And then you move on to the second half.
It doesn't have to the third time go, listen, buddy, you've asked for the pin. You've obviously not got the pin. Why don't you come back in 10 minutes?
So some do.
Oh, good.
There are some. So it really is very widely varied between implementations. So some will say, okay, you've tried 10 times and got it wrong. I'm going to stop accepting pins for like a minute. And that slows you down, but it's really not enough because there's only 11,000 possibilities. You can still get it in a couple of days at most. Some will actually lock you out indefinitely, which is what they should do, but most don't. Most just let you try as many times as you want.
Now they lock out that MAC address or that BSSID.
No, it's actually a global MAC.
Oh, a global. So
now
now your brute force has actually become a DDoS in that, or a denial of service in that now somebody legitimately cannot become the registrar.
Correct.
Oh, well, good for them, bad for us.
Right.
Now, you say that WPS is implemented and turned on by default in like 90% of routers. I'm assuming we're just talking about consumer routers.
Correct. There's really no need for this type of technology in enterprise systems, so you're not likely to see it in enterprise.
Right, and in those enterprises, they're using radius instead of a pre-shared key anyway, and no one in an enterprise would ever plug in like a Linksys router. That's unheard of.
Well, it's interesting because Cisco actually came out with a list of vulnerable devices, and it includes all their Linksys line, obviously. And so basically, it's all of their consumer products and some small business products that they put out. And their suggestion to fix the problem is to turn off the radio.
Turn off the radio completely?
Yes, disable wireless.
Doctor, it hurts when I moved it. Now, how about WPS across the different vendors? Obviously, in developing this tool, you did a lot of testing. What manufacturers have you played with, and what have you seen as far as, like I'm just not going to let anybody become a registrar, or I'm going to have a 1-minute cool out, or whatever?
So Netgear is probably the most problematic from a hacker standpoint. Some of them will lock you out for a minute or two. Some of them will lock you out indefinitely. Most of the devices, though, won't lock you out at all. So I've tested Linksys, TP-Link, TrendNet, D-Link, and most of them don't have any kind of lockouts.
They're going down like a cheap prom day.
Right, and it's actually interesting because there's a lot of people, now that we've released the code open source, a lot of people have been testing it, and it turns out a lot of ISPs who distribute routers to their clients, right?
3-wire.
They actually set the same pin on all the routers.
Oh no!
So there's like all of Switzerland uses this big ISP, and they all have the same pin. So it doesn't matter if you do lockouts or not, because you know what the pin is anyway.
Wow! Oh! The tears in my eyes. This is so beautiful. So walk me through it. So what exactly? So Reaver, the first part of it, it just says, hey, is it 0001? Basically. Is it 0002?
Yeah, so it starts off with the known common pins that ISPs have been reported to use. It tries those first, obviously.
Okay,
and then it just kind of walks through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right.
And does it do it sequentially, or since we're war dialing, no, it doesn't matter?
Well, so it does it sequentially, and when I originally wrote it actually did it randomized, but in theory, all of the pins are chosen by random anyway, so it doesn't matter if you go sequentially or randomized, you're statistically likely to get it in the same amount of time.
So what happens if you say, is it 0000, and it says no, and you're like, is it 0001, and it says yes. So now you've got the first key.
Right.
What do you do next?
Well, once you have the first half of the pin, it will then allow you to continue on and try the second half of the pin.
But you have to get the green key and take it to the ogre, and then you get the second pin.
Yes, exactly. So then you do the same thing with the second half of the pin, which is, again, is only 1,000 possibilities, so it goes much faster than the first half typically.
Oh my God, that's awesome. And then once you have that pin, you just become the registrar, you change it to WPA, PSK, Bob's your uncle, you're on, right?
So Reaver actually doesn't have the capability to change the settings, but it will tell you what the AP reported was its WPA
key. See, that's the most beautiful thing, because not only are you on, but you actually get the WPA key fed back to you. Actually, it's not like a web crack where, this works. Well, what was it? It doesn't matter, this works.
No, it's the actual string that the user typed in or was randomly generated by whatever mechanism they used.
How did you write this? Is this Python? Perl,
it's written in C.
Mother language?
It uses a lot of code from WPA Supplicant. WPA Supplicant already had support for WPS, so I used a lot of their code because
that's awesome.
why reinvent the wheel?
No, you shouldn't have to, and that's the beauty of open source. Wow, I am just fascinated by this. So when did you develop this, and when did this initially hit the public?
So this was originally developed by myself a year ago.
Okay.
It hit the public in December. Actually, Stefan Wiebach from Austria, he found the same thing. He was
okay.
This is bad.
You've been sitting on it for a year, but
I've been sitting on it for a while, and we've been doing a lot of testing on different vendors, trying to figure out, okay, who might not be vulnerable, and there's some weird implementation thing with some vendors. They don't like to follow specs properly, but we're doing a lot of testing and stuff, and so when he came out with it, we were like, well, everyone knows about it. We already have the code done. We'll just release it so everyone can verify that, yes, I'm vulnerable or no, I'm not.
Did you go to the Wi-Fi Alliance and say, hey guys, you got a problem?
What's actually interesting is Stefan and I had a conference call with the Wi-Fi Alliance.
Oh, nice.
And they have actually issued a notification to all the vendors.
Telling them to turn their radios off?
Well, no, they said you really need to implement like lockouts. Like if someone has tried like 10 times or whatever, you need to just like stop accepting pins. But it remains to be seen which vendors actually implement that. Like I said, Linksys has not yet issued any firmware updates that I'm aware of, and their suggestion to end users is just turn off your wireless. And most end users don't update firmware anyway.
Yeah, I can see this. I can see this tool having some legs for quite a while. Now, how did the tool get a physical manifestation? And how does that lead into the company? Were you already with Tactical Network Solutions?
Yeah, all this work was done while I was at Tactical Network Solutions. So we've released the code open source. So it's a command line tool, and it's pretty easy to run as far as wireless cracking tools go.
So is it not like one of those things where we're like, we need a giant GPU cluster?
No, in fact, there's very little processing power on our side. Most of the bottleneck is in the access point because, again, we have to do a Diffie-Hellman keys, and it takes a while for these limited resource embedded systems to generate Diffie-Hellman keys.
So even so it doesn't matter what your hardware is because you're still waiting for that little trinket of a Linksys router to come up with.
Correct.
To do the exchange and everything.
Yep.
So that's why you're only able to do, how many keys per second can you do?
So the best you're probably going to get is 1 key per second.
Okay.
Some will be 2 or 3. If they implement some kind of locking mechanism, you're probably going to average like 10. But again, I mean, at most it's going to take you, if they're limiting you, it's going to take you like a few days.
Okay.
Which
hey, it's better than it wasn't going to happen at all because nobody generated rainbow tables.
Exactly.
Nice. Or the word wasn't in a dictionary.
Right.
That is fantastic because that has been the advice to the consumer is, change your SSID and use a long password. This doesn't care about either of those.
Right, because the access point, once you get the PIN, is just going to give you the key and the SSID.
Nice.
In plain text.
And so how did this become a physical manifestation?
So obviously we have our open source implementation. This is Reaver Pro. It's the professional version. It's a dedicated box. You hook up to it over Ethernet. It's got a nice little GUI web interface to it, so you can pretty much use it on any operating system. You just open up your browser, browse to it. It's got a big start button. It does a survey, looks for everything that has WPS enabled, and then whenever you want to attack, you click on it, and it goes.
And it just sits there, attacks all day until it has the key?
You can unplug from it, let it sit there, come back to it, plug back in, and it'll be like, oh, I'm done, or these are the keys I'm trying.
And does it have to sit there? Like if I'm like, say, trying to get, and not that we ever would, imply that you should do anything like this, but if you were, say, you have to drive down to your neighbor's place or whatever, down the road to sit there in the van with the thing, do the cracking, like, can you resume if you come back later, or do you have to start with 0000 again?
Yeah, there's a pause resume feature, so you can be like, well, I'm done now, and then you come back later, it'll automatically identify, yes, we've attacked this BSSID before, let's pick up where we were before. That's
pretty freaking sweet. And that's pretty cool too, because you're able to come up with something small, low-powered, lightweight, because you don't need some $5,000 graphics card array to come up with crazy numbers.
Exactly.
That is fantastic. Well, where can people find the code? Where can they find the product? Where can they find more information about this?
So if you go to our website, tacnetsol.com, we've got a products page, and there's a link both to the pro version as well as the open source code. You can download it, and also you can just buy this over PayPal.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Craig. And I must ask one last question. Reaver.
Yes.
Is your coat brown?
It is.
Did you get it on sale?
I had to fight Mal for it, but we worked out an agreement.
I understand. Well, River would be very proud. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks.
It doesn't matter whether you're in the shower or hanging out with friends or showering with your friends. When a killer idea hits you, you need to snag your domain fast. And with domain.com's simple search and checkout process, you're gonna have that domain in like no time. Plus, when you're ready to take the next step, domain.com has rock solid hosting infrastructure to create a perfect foundation for your project. And get this, the guys over at domain.com, they're huge Hak5 fans. They want to hook you up, so they've got a coupon code just for us. It's HAK5 at checkout, gets you 15% off. So when you think domains, think domain.com.